Hey folks, Rigved here. In the second episode of my podcast, we're going to talk about internet and the influence five big tech companies, Facebook, Alphabet, Apple, Amazon and Microsoft have on it. Let's see how each one's failures and successes have put them in the position to influence the internet. First, we need to understand the hierarchy of control in technology. I heard about this hierarchy on a video by YouTuber Polymatter. The video is called why Bing is the future of the internet. I don't necessarily agree with the title of the video because I think when the name of the product company becomes a verb, then the product has won. And we never say search it on the internet, we say Google it. At the bottom of this hierarchy of control that I'm going to talk about, it's plugins. Plugins enhance the apps and softwares that we use. For example, AdBlock on Google Chrome and other browsers, add themes on those browsers. You might have heard about Honey, a free browser extension that helps you find coupon codes. These are plugins that enhance the functions or experience of those apps. Above plugins in the hierarchy are the apps themselves. Why? Because they can just add the functions of those plugins as features. Many browsers now, such as Mozilla Firefox, Apple Safari, Microsoft Edge, and Brave browser, have already added tracking protection features, so there is no need to add a plugin, and that's why apps are positioned higher in this hierarchy. Bundled apps are higher in hierarchy than individual apps because bundles are usually cheaper. Even though Dropbox, Google Drive and iCloud are around $10 per month for 2 terabyte, you get more apps in both Google Drive and iCloud than Dropbox. Above bundled app are operating systems themselves because the company that makes the operating system can push their own apps and services. That is why Google, Apple and Microsoft are so successful today. Microsoft pushes its browser called Microsoft Edge in Windows. Google pushes Google Chrome, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Maps in Android. Apple pushes iCloud, Apple Music, etc. in iOS, iPadOS and macOS. At the top of hierarchy of control in technology is the hardware itself. Phones, computers, etc. Without hardware, all this would not be possible. Although hardware and operating system are almost at the same level, but it is the hardware that pushes the software. Then software tries to use the hardware at its maximum potential. Then hardware evolves and cycle continues. But it is hardware that is at the highest level of technological hierarchy. So let's talk about the beginnings of the internet. In 1960s, the Advanced Research Projects Agency (ARPA) of United States Department of Defense funded research into time sharing of computers. Early international collaboration for ARPANET were rare. Connections were made in 1973 to Norwegian Seismic Array (NORSAR) via a satellite station in Tanum, Sweden, and to Peter Kirstein's research group at University College London, which provided a gateway to British academic networks. In 1982, the Internet Protocol Suite (TCP/IP) was standardized, which permitted worldwide proliferation of interconnected networks. Steady advances in semiconductor technology and optical networking create economic opportunities for commercial involvement in the expansion of network in its core for delivering services to public. In mid 1989, MCI Mail and CompuServe established connections to internet, delivering email and public access products to 500,000 users of the internet. Just months later, on 1 January 1990, PSINet launched an alternate internet backbone for commercial use. In March 1990, the first high-speed T1 link between NSFNet and Europe was installed between Cornell University and CERN, allowing much more robust communications that were capable with satellites. 6 months later, Tim Berners-Lee would begin writing World Wide Web, the first web browser, and after 2 years of lobbying CERN management. By Christmas 1990, Berners-Lee had built all the tools necessary for working web: the Hypertext Transfer Protocol (HTTP), Hypertext Markup Language (HTML), first web browser, first HTTP server software, first web server, and first web pages that describe the project itself. Basically, Tim Berners-Lee standardized commercial internet, and around 1995 to 2005, internet became a major influence for culture and commerce. Of course, this early rapid commercial adoption of the internet spawned many companies. This led to many investors trying to capitalize and get rich quick by investing any companies with a .com in the name. Many companies, AOL, Yahoo, Craigslist, eBay, Match.com, MSN by Microsoft, Amazon, Google, were founded during this boom of .com. Unlike Amazon and Google, however, there were many companies with bad business models that also received heavy investments. Examples of these are Pixelon.com, Boo.com, etc. In the year 2000, Japan entered recession. It was a big market outside the West due to technological advances in that country. Microsoft was sued by the US government for antitrust. Microsoft had highest market share in computer operating systems at the time. US government also announced increase in interest rates that would affect investors and venture capitalists. All these things and bad investments led to market crash. All hype for .com companies died even though there were already many red flags such as low profitability, bad business models, etc. Many companies went bankrupt and this caused stock market crash called .com crash or .com bubble. Of course, there were many companies that had good business models that survived this crash like Google and Amazon. These two companies are now two of the biggest tech companies that influence the internet. But let's start with Microsoft. So the first company to try to possess the entire internet for itself is of course Microsoft. They tried to do this by bundling Internet Explorer with Windows, which was the most popular OS in the world and most popular desktop operating system today. People started using Internet Explorer that came with Windows because their other option was Netscape Navigator and it was a paid program. However, the US government sued Microsoft for their anti-competitive practices and they had to abandon Internet Explorer and web entirely. And this was the reason why Internet Explorer sucked so badly. This made Microsoft lose to Google for search engine, browser and email, and to Amazon for e-commerce. Even after all these losses, however, Microsoft is still richer than Google's parent company Alphabet and competes with Amazon and Apple to be the richest company in the world. The second company to track to control the internet and first to succeed is Amazon. We all know Amazon as a shopping website, but they control backend of the internet through their cloud platform called Amazon Web Services, or in short AWS. Amazon launched AWS in July 2002, became most popular feature around 2004-2006. So you can say AWS became mainstream in around 2006. A lot of companies use AWS to store their data. Big names include Apple, Twitter, Netflix, Uber, Lyft, Reddit, Pinterest, Adobe, etc. Yes, when you use services like Twitter and Netflix, your phone and computer are contacting Amazon servers through Twitter and Netflix apps and websites. All of your tweets and all of your Netflix shows and movies, all of it is on Amazon servers called AWS. Even Dropbox and Spotify used AWS till 2016. Spotify switched to Google Cloud and Dropbox started using their own servers. In 2021, AWS has largest global market share of 30-35% in cloud. Many companies use AWS to store their data. Next company we are going to talk about is Google. Google was founded in 1997-98 by two PhD students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Nowadays, Google has become synonymous with the internet for many people. Google offers many services like Google Search, Gmail, YouTube, Google Calendar, Drive, Photos, etc. They also have many platforms to use the internet. That is Google Chrome, Google Android for phones, Chrome OS, Google Assistant, etc. But just like Amazon, they also have their cloud platform. It is called Google Cloud Platform, or in short GCP. GCP started in 2008 only for web apps and it became generally available in 2011. Major famous customers of GCP are Spotify, Snapchat, PayPal, Coca-Cola, etc. I think even SpaceX recently signed a contract with Google for their cloud platform. So I think SpaceX is also in that list. GCP is third largest in cloud market, having 7-10% market share. Google, which has the largest market share in search with Google Search, email with Gmail, and video platform YouTube, browser with Google Chrome, smartphones with Android, is in the third place when it comes to providing companies servers. Amazon is in the first place, Google is in the third place. On the front end of the internet, Google has dominated the internet. They are doing this in two ways: progressive web app and accelerated mobile pages. PWAs are websites that behave like apps, so app stores don't matter. AMP is a technology that strips the web to its most important element, that is the text. So AMP supported websites load faster on mobile. When you search something on Google on your phone and you see tiny gray lightning bolt near the website name, it is an AMP supported website. AMP is criticized by many critics as Google trying to exert its dominance on web. The next company is Facebook. Why is it called Facebook? A Facebook is basically a student directory which features photo and personal information. Before Facebook, the company, Mark Zuckerberg built a website called FaceMash in 2003 when he was in Harvard to rate whether someone is hot or not. FaceMash attracted 450 visitors and 22,000 photo views in its first 4 hours. The site was sent to several campus group listservs but was shut down few days later by Harvard administration. Zuckerberg faced expulsion and was charged with breaching security, violating copyrights and violating individual privacy. Well, the charges were dropped in 2003. Harvard had only paper version of a Facebook. Zuckerberg decided to create an online universal Facebook for Harvard on his own. Therefore, on February 2004, Zuckerberg launched the Facebook, originally located at thefacebook.com. It was later renamed to Facebook in 2005 and became generally available in 2006. Facebook is dominant on social media, but outside of social media, Facebook hasn't really succeeded much, at least when comparing to other big tech companies. They have some apps and games on Facebook website, but that is some content just to make users keep using Facebook. They also have sign in with Facebook, which you may have seen on many websites when you're trying to create a new account. They also allow websites and blogs to use the like button and comment using Facebook accounts. All of this is to track you on the internet, to learn more about you and then sell you ads based on your behavior. They have purchased Instagram in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014. So even if you stopped using Facebook and started using Instagram, you're still being tracked heavily by Facebook. They also copied core features of Snapchat and introduced them as stories in Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. Because just like Instagram and WhatsApp, Facebook saw that Snapchat would be the next big thing. But unlike Instagram and WhatsApp, Facebook couldn't acquire Snapchat. Facebook also copied core features of TikTok and introduced Instagram Reels, because just like Snapchat, they couldn't acquire TikTok, the next big thing. However, they managed to acquire Oculus after missing out on smartphones. To have some hardware presence in VR, as having hardware allows Facebook to continue its services. They also tried to acquire Fitbit but lost the bid to Google. The next company we are going to talk about is Apple. So how do you think Apple can influence the internet? Well, Apple launched iTunes, an online music store for iPod and Macs in 2001 and later for Windows in 2003. iTunes helped fight music piracy, a problem which is almost eliminated now due to music streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music and others. Apple launched iPhone in 2007 and revolutionized the smartphone. Apple launched App Store for iPhone in 2008. Now here's the fun fact. App makers make more money on iPhone than on Android. Anytime you look at iPhone's App Store earnings and compare them to Google's Play Store earnings, you will notice that App Store earnings are double that of the Play Store. If you look at the top phone models by sales, you will notice the top 10 charts are various iPhone models and a few affordable Android phones. Of course, there are people who have the expensive Android phones. Chances are you might be listening to this on one. But if you look at sales chart, clearly most people who buy expensive high-end phones are buying iPhones, and those people are spending more on apps. This definitely influences developer decisions. Instagram, Snapchat and Clubhouse all launched on iPhone before they became available for Android, for example. And that's the reason why Epic Games wants Apple to reduce its 30% cut on App Store. And that's why Facebook is trying to hurt Apple so hard. Because of recent changes to iOS, all app tracking is going to be transparent to users, and users will choose not to have themselves tracked, which will hurt Facebook's revenue. Now let's get back to Microsoft for a little bit. After their antitrust disaster, Microsoft came back for internet, announcing their own AWS competitor called Windows Azure in 2008. It was released in 2010 and was renamed to Microsoft Azure in 2014. Microsoft Azure started to replace Windows Server Yes, a lot of companies have private server that stores all their data. Those servers ran a special version of Microsoft Windows called Windows servers. So those companies started using Azure. After losing to Google in search, email, browser and mobile, Microsoft beat Google for cloud. A lot of software developers prefer AWS and Azure. Amazon's AWS has secured its future. Now we just have to see whether there's going to be a monopoly of AWS or if there will be a duopoly of AWS and Azure. But on the front end of the internet, the part that you and I interact with on our phones and our computers, we have two options, Google and Apple. So it will be free but non-private internet by progressive web apps and accelerated mobile pages that Google wants. Or will it be app focused and subscription and in-app purchases type of internet that Apple wants? For now, it seems that Apple is winning and I'm personally rooting for them, at least for this case. Here's another perspective on future of the internet. Biggest example of this, it's China. Google and Facebook are banned in China. Twitter is banned in China. They have their own versions of all these companies. Various countries banned various websites. So part of the future of the internet is intranational internet rather than international or global internet. So all the countries in future will have their own version of the internet depending on their relationship to United States, because all of these big tech companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, they are US based tech companies. So depending on how the country is friendly or hostile to the US, they will have their own version of internet. There's another version of internet, it is private internet. As much privacy focused Apple has gotten recently, there are more privacy friendly app alternatives to Apple as well. Visit any pro privacy websites, you will find recommendations to private internet. DuckDuckGo for search, Brave and Firefox for web browser, Signal for messaging, and Proton Mail to Tutanota for email, etc. I believe there will be a part of internet that is extremely privacy focused. So in summary, we have mainstream corporate internet, these big five tech companies, intranational internet, internet divided by countries, and private internet as the present of the internet and even the future of the internet. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you folks very soon.